Let's go.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sab's podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. Good grief. What a week for news. What a week for news. If you did not get a chance to see it, make sure you check it out. I did cover this so-called peace plan from Donald Trump. I released a video about that earlier today. And of course, Netanyahu already walking that back. So make sure you check that out. I released a couple of videos yesterday too, because I wasn't live on Sunday. So that's the thing about the show. You never know what you're going to get. Every now and then it could surprise you. Tonight's theme, ladies and gentlemen, is pushing propaganda. And that's exactly what is happening around us. There's a lot of events that are taking place and we cannot take our eye off the ball. I do feel like there's a lot of distractions that are coming our way. So I want to make sure that we highlight those that are pushing propaganda. We will be doing that tonight. If you didn't get a chance to do so, please be sure to answer that poll. I'm curious to see your opinion about that in reference to this New York City mayor race. But first and foremost, let's give some shout outs to people in the chat. I'm not going to keep you guys long. Many of you may be wondering why I started later tonight. Just to let you know, for those of you who are new, oldies but goodies, they know this. I am a big sports fan. And the Red Sox and the Yankees playoff started tonight, and that game started at 6. So I wanted to be able to watch some of that game. That's why I started at 8 o'clock tonight. So, hey, this is Massachusetts. So really big into sports. So yeah, it is playoff season already. Let's go ahead and give some shout outs to some peeps in the chat. For those who are wondering, it is 1-0 right before I went live. And that one run is for the Yankees. So Red Sox are playing pretty well. They're just not able to get a run just yet. So hopefully they can sneak one in here pretty soon. Shout out to Cud Sis says Max is a badass. Well, damn. Well, damn. We just scored. Okay. We just scored 2. Thanks, Eric. Eric's letting me know in the background. Sorry. Some of you watching like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, so it looks like we just scored. Yeah. Okay, let's continue on with the show. Sorry, guys. Shout out to I Am Valentina for becoming a Sabby member. Welcome. Give I Am Valentina a big whoop, whoop. Shout out to Blockbuster, says hi. Greetings, not bloody likely. Sabby, that picture of Dersh is the stuff of nightmares. That is a creepy picture, isn't it? That is rather creepy. Greetings, CBC voter, says happy Tuesday, Sabby. Hello to you. Shout out to Mr. Moto, says number 5, government wins again. Final answer. Shout out to New York Varsity, says Max more than confronted him. He snatched his soul and the other 2 guests too. Yes, he did. I can't believe they finally allowed Max Blumenthal to appear on Piers Morgan. I cannot believe it. Greetings, Lorez says, hi, Sabby, Eric, Corey, and RBN fam. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Saw RBN cover Hillary. She's still trying to stay relevant. And of course, she sides with Trump and the empire. Smash the like, y'all. Yeah, she is. Greetings, Dana says, this image of Dershowitz is going to give me nightmares. I'm going to haunt you in your dreams. Oh, my God. Greetings, Hannah says, oh, it starts at 8 tonight. I'll be waiting. Yeah. Shout out to Zen Soulful says, hello. Greetings, Chrome says, happy Taco Tuesday, Sabby. Taco Tuesday, peeps. Greetings, Simply says, RIP ASSATA Shakur. Yes, we will get into that. And of course, the propaganda that till this day still surrounds her and her case. Shout out to, where did I go? Did I hit the wrong person? Oh, sorry. Greetings, Myra says hello to Mr. Moto. Shout out to Myra's mama, says Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell. She has some pretty good songs. Greetings, Mary Beth says, hi, Sabby and crew. Geez, the news is changing so profoundly and so quickly that I'm glad I was able to join a live show. My head is spinning. All eyes on the flotilla. Yeah, we might have an update about that tomorrow. Jeff said none of the above on that poll. Zohran wins, but somewhere between close and a landslide. So you think it'll be in the middle? Interesting. And shout out to Edward says, hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Shout out to Ronald Jackson, who just became a Sabby member. Let's give Ronald a big whoop, whoop in the house. And thank you for the super chat, Roger. These government shutdowns is precisely why and makes my argument why we must push CBIAs, like for a public bank, single payer, etc. We create our own safety nets. I agree with Roger here. I thought about covering it and I was just like, I cover the government shutdown so many times. It's the same thing back and forth. And I'm just like, one thing I will say is this. Yeah, we really need to activate ourselves and our energy on the local level. We really do. And a number of people, sometimes they ask me, like, how did you guys get all these things passed in Massachusetts? Those were ballot initiatives. So the people, we went out and voted for those policies. I wish it was that way all across the United States. Could you imagine if we could just vote for policies and we didn't have to rely on or hope that representatives would vote for the policies that we want? That would be true democracy. True democracy. All righty. Again, tonight's theme is pushing propaganda, ladies and gents. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to all the Sabby patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. You are keeping the lights on around me. Or as the Counting Crows used to say, round here. Do people remember the Counting Crows? Remember them? All right. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. If you are interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories here. Ultimate, Sabinators. We also have a group called Sabsters doing the damn thing. Don't forget about the Sabbies. Yeah. I wonder whatever happened to Counting Crows. Now I'm starting to wonder. I see that, Matt. I get to that in a second. And shout out to members as well. All of their names are listed here. And you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker throughout the show. We want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. We like to call them newbies. Let's give it up for SSM, J. Thomas, and West Hedges Leftist. Interesting group. Thank you all and welcome. Welcome back. Yeah. I think Matt Stews said it in the chat. He said Sabby's such a millennial. I am. Oh my God. Speaking of millennial life, there we go. This song came on the radio today. Another 90s song, a band that I think was just really underrated. And that was the band Stone Temple Pilots. I don't know if everybody's familiar with them, but their song Creep came on the radio today when I was driving. And I was like, oh, because I listened to the 90s station. And I was like, I haven't heard this song in forever. Stone Temple Pilots, really amazing band. But for whatever reason, I feel like they did not get the credit that they really deserved. I thought they were very artistic. And I know that, like, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, the thing I like about them is they mix like rock and blues and funk and all these things together to make a song. But I also feel like Stone Temple Pilots kind of played around with that a little bit too. I mean, it's alternative rock. So they had rock, but they also had a little bit of blues in there. Listen to their song Creep. And no, not the one by Radiohead, which is actually a ripoff of another song. We'll talk about that another night. But listen to the song Creep by Stone Temple Pilots. And it has kind of like a bluesy kind of element to it. Yeah. Yeah. Clifford says Stone Temple Pilots was definitely in the grunge era. Yeah, I like them. They were really good. What? Mark said Sabby, the guy that sang Creep, was in an early indie band called Camper Van Beethoven. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Huh. I heard about that. Radiohead are Zionists. I heard about that. And copying someone else's song. Yeah, they did. Anywho, yeah, Stone Temple Pilots were the ones that had the song, Interstate Love Song, leaving on a southern train only yesterday. I love that song. Again, I just think they're so underrated. Anywho, tonight's theme is pushing propaganda. Let's go ahead and share that thumbnail so you can see what we are discussing tonight, ladies and gents. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you here. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing, oh my God, this is my favorite, but this is going to be my favorite part of the show. Max Blumenthal confronts Alan Dershowitz. I never thought that I would see Max Blumenthal on Piers Morgan's show ever. Like ever. But he got on there and he killed it. And you guys, we are going to have a great time with that story. He killed it. We're also going to get into this Charlie Kirk letter, which they are alleging is the letter that Charlie Kirk wrote to Benjamin Netanyahu. We're going to go through that today. And also, I do want you to ask yourself, do you think that this is the real letter? There's no date on the letter, but we'll go through it. I don't think this is really a gotcha from Zionists that they think it is. This letter to me just proves as much so how Israel was really trying to take over what was happening with Turning Point, but also dictating and telling them what to do. Like how involved they were with Charlie Kirk. I think that's what this letter really exposes. We're also going to get into this story here about Zohran Mamdani. If you guys have not heard, Eric Adams has decided to drop out of the race. What does this mean for Zohran? And Donald Trump has already issued a response to Zohran Mamdani about federal funding. Yeah, this is an important story, ladies and gentlemen, because this can tell you what he may be able to accomplish. So we'll get into that. We're also going to discuss, a big one. ASSATA Shakur has passed away in Cuba. A lot of people get her story wrong and get her case wrong. We're going to get it right here tonight. And tell you who she really was. And last but not least, there is already a replacement for Charlie Kirk. It's interesting how quickly they have moved. You would think people would be spending this time grieving if they were, so close to Charlie Kirk, but they have already moved on. I guess they say this is business. And his name is Brillin Hollyhand. We'll get into that story as well, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome. If you are just joining and you haven't done so, smash that like, answer that poll question for me. And let's go ahead and get into the first story, ladies and gents. So, last time I checked, Charlie Kirk passed away in September this month. And it appears to me that Turning Point USA has already decided to move on with the replacement that fast. I mean, you would think, as much as they have talked about Charlie Kirk, as much as they have said, you know, we have to honor his memory, one would think the last thing that would be on their mind right now is replacing him. But that's exactly what is happening. This young guy here, he's very young. He's a freshman in college. His name is Brillin Hollyhand. He was just on Fox News. Listen to what he has to say.
It's also an incredible story that you share with us really quickly, Brillin, about fourth grade, a podcast. That's incredible. And Charlie Kirk appears on your podcast. Tell me about the role he played for you as a mentor.
Yeah, again, it's somebody that didn't have to do that. He was on Fox News every other hour that year. He didn't have to make time for me as an 11-year-old with this upcoming podcast in the fourth grade to come on and join me, but he did. And not only was it a one-time thing, I've interviewed hundreds of people that I've never talked to again. He stayed a mentor, and he texted me up until this week when I was on another Fox show congratulating me. Like, he didn't have to do that. He could have viewed me as competition. He could have said, oh, I'm not going to give this kid time, but he did. And what I think the larger theme here is the left loves to preach tolerance. They love to preach tolerance. And in situations like this, that's the last thing we're seeing. The media coverage on the other side of the aisle is not like this. I was just scrolling through channels. And obviously the person that took this life, this is heartbreaking, Will. And I really hope, if anything, that people get off the sidelines. This weekend, I'm going to a youth rally in South Carolina. And you better believe that I've already had my team shoot me text saying, Brown, you really need to caution this. You really need to think about not standing in the middle of a park and speak to the next generation. But I am more energized than ever to carry on this torch, to carry on this legacy, because that's what Charlie would have wanted. He would have wanted us to continue to fight the good fight, just like he did.
No doubt, Brylan. No doubt. Thank you.
Well, that happened fast. Well, damn. I mean, wasn't Charlie Kirk's funeral just like last week? Very, very quickly how they have managed to move on. This kid is very young, right? Just like how Charlie Kirk was young when he first started with Turning Point USA. This is important because one of the things I told you before about AIPAC is they get them when they're young. They get them when they're young. He was mentored by Charlie Kirk, and he just sliding right in there. It's kind of like, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say it. It's kind of like, you know, a husband and wife, and one of them passes away, and the best friend just slides right in very quickly. I don't know. It just gives me those kind of vibes. Very fast. Very fast. But AIPAC does recruit them young. They get them when they're in college, right? I showed you the video before of Cory Booker at an AIPAC meeting telling them, well, if you want to get more Black support for, you know, AIPAC, you really need to start reaching out to them in college. Yeah. Cory Booker, of all people. He is making the rounds. He was also on Newsmax. We want to go ahead and bring this up here. This is him on Twitter, or X. He said, do you hear that noise? That's the sound of a revival among Gen Z. Okay, here he is here on Newsmax.
You hear that noise sweeping across the country? That is the sound of my generation taking off the shackles of the left that we've been a monopoly of the DNC for so long. And we're actually seeing a revival sweep across this nation. Not just political, not just cultural, but spiritual. Bianca, you know, politics is temporary. Faith is eternal. And the images you're showing on your screen are my generation repenting and turning to the Lord out of this tragedy. Do you hear that noise?
Yeah, you know, obviously I was not a fan of Charlie Kirk. But I will say, it did seem like Charlie Kirk at least had a little bit more energy. I don't know. This kid, he comes across like stale bread to me. I'm just not. Do you feel excited? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's very weird. Now, here's the thing that has happened that has even some conservatives upset about this. He was announcing that he's starting the college tour already, and he did this announcement from a private jet. That's right, folks. Keeping it with the working class peeps out there. Here I am sitting on a private jet going out there to talk to the young folks. Look at me.
What's up, America? Brian Hollyhands here, about 30,000 feet up. We are on the way to Arkansas. So everybody in line at the University of Arkansas to kick off my 10-stop campus tour. We are coming to you right here, right now. Stay in line. We have gotten a third room because we have sold out this campus stop 3 times. But we are coming to you. We will fit you in. Students will get priority, but we will make it happen. I cannot be more excited. We are back. We are on the road. We're coming to you one conversation at a time. If you're not at the University of Arkansas, we're coming to a campus near you soon. So check out my tour dates. We'll see you super soon.
He doesn't sound excited to me. He says he's super excited, but he doesn't sound excited to me. Yeah, some people definitely took issue with the fact that he's on a private jet. They're like, what are you doing? What is this really all about? He looks a little too squeaky clean to me. I don't think he's ready to get his hands dirty, to get into the... One thing I will say this about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was willing to debate pretty much anyone. I just don't get that impression from this guy. I just don't get it. But the private jet thing is something that has many people up in arms because it does send a message. It's like, it's a class issue. It's a class issue. And a lot of these colleges that they're going to, like University of Arkansas, for example, you are going to have like students there that are, there because of financial aid. They are there, they're taking out student loans. Their parents may not have a lot of money, and you flying around on a jet. And it's the same critique and criticism that some people had for AOC and Bernie Sanders during the oligarchy tour when they were taking, they're like, why are you guys taking a private jet? I thought you're supposed to be reaching out to the working class. Why don't you just get on the bus? Right? So for me, I don't care what party you in. This does send a message. It's a little classist to me, little classist. And apparently some people that are part of MAGA also have a problem with this. This was reported just earlier Tuesday morning. Teen hailed as Charlie Kirk protege is ripped by MAGA crowd after private jet video. Country club conservative. Yeah, it really does kind of debunk the whole working class American hero, right? Like it kind of, I don't know. Let's make this a little bit larger so you guys can see it here. Brillin Hollyhand, that name, Brillin Hollyhand, who calls himself the internet's youngest voice of reason, rankled many conservatives online, including those associated with Turning Point USA, the political advocacy organization funded by Kirk. It comes after the 19-year-old posted a video of himself traveling to Arkansas to begin his one conversation at a time tour, which he has vowed will be a continuation of Kirk's legacy after he was fatally shot in Utah earlier this month. In this video, Hollyhand is seen sitting in what appears to be a private jet while wearing a striped golf top and an expensive looking watch. You know what he looks like? He looks like a George Bush Republican. That's what he looks like. He looks like, and I'd go even say W. He looks like a George W. Bush Republican. He doesn't look like the MAGA type of Republican. Like he doesn't look like he may appeal, I'd say, to those that are working in factories, like those that have like blue collar jobs, right? Like, or the farmers who have been, raising their voices a lot over the tariffs. He doesn't seem like he would appeal to that crowd. That's kind of like what he reminds me of. But let's get into some of the criticism that has come his way. Nick Sauter, a fellow Republican influencer who briefly co-hosted the Charlie Kirk show, warned against grifters using Turning Point USA's name to push campus tours. Turning Point USA is absolutely not sponsoring campus tours for young men flying around on private planes. despite claims otherwise, he wrote on X. This is such an unnecessary distraction from the actual campus tour, which honors Charlie. Okay, so I've seen that guy on X a couple of times. Ignore the grifters, he added. Sortor added that while Hollyhan may be a good kid, he was surrounded by others trying to hijack the movement for their own gain. It's sickening. I'll do everything in my power to expose it. Turning Point USA's chief officer, Tyler Bowyer, also accused him of falsely suggesting events were sponsored by the group, according to Mediaite. So apparently, I guess these campus tours that Brillin is attending, according to these individuals, they are saying that Turning Point is not sponsoring those appearances. So why is Brillin saying that they are? See, there's already some shady things that are happening, folks. Some shady things will go on here. Others were skeptical of Hollyhan's seemingly luxurious mode of transportation, with one social media user writing, most college kids, middle seat on Southwest. This guy, country club polo on a jet. Totally relatable, of course, being ironic there or sarcastic there. Is this kid the Temu version of Charlie Kirk? Added another. Now, of course, Brillin said in this post here from the New York Post that he's not trying to basically take over Charlie Kirk's legacy. He said he'll never be Charlie, et cetera, et cetera. But obviously, people have concerns, right? People do have some concerns here. There was another appearance that he made here recently. This was also at the University of Arkansas. He said it's a sold out auditorium. So listen to him here. You tell me if you feel the energy.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to be here, and I'm so excited to officially kick off our One Conversation at a Time tour on your beautiful campus. When we planned this all out, I wanted this to be the first stop. I wanted to be here. I wanted to be with you, and this worked out perfectly. And it looks like we've got a full room, so I think we chose pretty wisely. So it's genuinely an honor. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you before we get started, because I'm a freshman at Auburn. I understand the strains in your time commitment. I understand all of the insane things that you could be doing tonight. You've got homework. There's probably some parties going on campus. You got to get ready for the weekend and whoever y'all play on Saturday. But genuinely, you took the time to be here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, if you don't hear anything else tonight, thank you for being here. Thank you for kicking off this tour with me. It is an honor to share this experience with you.
How many people are in this room? How big is this room? Because, you know, I went to undergrad and I went to grad school. I've had classes in these auditorium rooms. Sometimes the auditoriums are huge. Sometimes they're not. So I'm wondering how many people are actually in this room. That's important when he says sold out, right? Also, he so reminds me of the George W. Bush Republicans that I knew, like when I was in school. That's what he reminds me of. He just looks like, I don't know. I'm already bored. Like when I first heard this, I was like, I'm ready to take a nap. Let's take a snooze. Do you feel any energy? Do you feel enthused? Do you feel like excited or anything like that? I don't know. But this is a gentleman that Charlie Kirk mentored. And he just slid right in there, huh? They already got a replacement for him that fast. So when we talk about pushing the propaganda, again, you have to understand AIPAC gets them when they're young. Now, this is someone who probably already knows the rules. He's not going to criticize Israel, not going to have any critiques of it whatsoever. Why else would they have him in that spot? They found another puppet. They found someone to go along with their plan. And they did it very quickly. And I have to say another thing. You know, you guys tell me how you feel. Maybe people deal with grief in different ways. But I just find it kind of strange that like even a week after Charlie Kirk died, I'm seeing people that family members, his wife, I mean, they're going on all these different shows. And I get it. People are going to want to talk to them. But for me, I would need some time. And that's the part to me that's just a little weird. And it's just almost like nothing happened. Like they just continue on as usual. And that to me is suspicious. Like I know a lot of people have questions about, we talked only here about the shooting. I don't believe everything the FBI said about the shooting. I think the FBI just gathered what they could and just threw it out there and said, let's just see what sticks to the wall. There hasn't been transparency from the FBI. Cash Patal's all over the damn place with his big eyes, that type of thing. But this right here, I think is something that people really need to pay close attention to, how quickly everybody just moved on that fast, as if people couldn't just take a month off from the business aspect and have some time to grieve. It's weird to me. Very weird to me. Let's get to some of the comments here, ladies and gents, and then we'll move on to the next story, fam. Oh, I forgot one part. Sorry. Whoopsies. One part I forgot. This might be why they're not taking a break. Shout out to Mel. She said the toothpaste ain't going back in the tube because Gen Z is woken up. Listen to these guys.
Hey, to everyone that supports Nick Fuentes, just know, bro, he switched up. APAC paid him 241 grand to support their twisted agenda, bro. APAC is not good, bro. All the politicians you know, they have their APAC guys controlling
every single congressman has an APAC guy.
Wake up.
Every single one. Wake the fuck up, bro.
Wake
Our
up.
government is controlled by Israel and we don't even know, bro. Wake up. Literally. Nobody realizes, bro. You vote for these people, bro. Your vote's not going to anything.
You're voting for Israel. No matter what you vote for, you're voting for Israel.
You're voting for an actor.
There's no point in even following a political party.
Literally.
That's the truth of it. And George Washington warned about the two-party system ever since the beginning. Right before he died, he was talking about the two-party system
and nobody listened. Nobody listened. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now, bro. And you have fucking people, the Charlie Kirk killer, and Trump is blaming on the fucking Democrats for a reason. Wake up. They're
trying to divide us.
They're
trying to divide us. Stand together and stand against
so Republicans hate Democrats and Democrats hate Republicans. It's going to be like that for as long as we know.
That's exactly how they want it. That's exactly what they want.
Exactly.
Unite and wake up
together.
Stay woke, bro.
Wake the fuck up,
Stay
bro.
woke.
Wake up.
That is why they are pushing this as quickly as they are. It's the Gen Z, because they're the future boomers at some point, right? They're going to be the future older voters. Listening to what they said here, it really made me proud. Yeah, he's right. The founding fathers of the U.S. did not want political parties. And the reason why they didn't want them is because they were afraid that what is happening now would happen, that people would just have party loyalty regardless of the policies or how they feel about said issue. And that's exactly what we have in this country. I was just surprised to know that these young kids, that they knew that the founding fathers did not want political parties. They're telling you, they're saying APAC, don't know, man. They're just taking over everything. And all these politicians are bought. Like, this is why they don't want to pause. This is why they don't want to let's just take a month off and then we'll resume things. Let's take some time. Let people grieve. This is why. It's the youth. And they're terrified of the youth. So apparently, the propaganda that's being pushed isn't working on a lot of them. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Ashura says, wow, first time I heard right-wing conservatives say stay woke. And it's true, right? Like they want people divided. That's a big part of this. Thank you for the super chat, Kenman. Sabby, did you like Dawson's Creek? Yes. How did you know? Me and my friends used to watch Dawson's Creek and talk to each other on the phone at the same time. And my parents used to say, are you watching the show or are you talking on the phone? And I'd be like, I'm doing both. How are you watching the show if you're talking on the phone? Because we're quiet when important things are said. Thank you, Chip, for the super chat. Chip says, smash the like. Thank you. Fire says, Sabby, I promise you they weren't underrated in the grunge scene, East Coast to West. Did I sing STP on Guitar Hero or the Band One game? Ah, interesting. Thank you, Mad Progenitor. deity? He's half righteous gemstones and half true blood. JC says that's why Israel hired Epstein to get them young. Ooh. Thank you, Professor Zinkas. Hello. Apparently, more than a few right-wing TP USA fans aren't happy with this guy. Thank you, William. Such an insult to replace Charlie with an even dorkier look-alike. Charlie fans won't accept this disgrace. Trust no one. It's the Truman Show. Wake up. People are definitely waking up. Let's get that comment on Rumble. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey. All right. Thank you for the Rumble rant, Mark. Sabby, when I was at Rutgers Livingston, students were collected for Assata's Defense Fund. Livingston was the last of the awesome schools. They subsequently de-radicalized it soon after I graduated in 1979. Interesting. I didn't know about that. Interesting. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin Roger. They are what I call the throw the rock up in the air issues and what I call gravity issues. When you throw a rock up in the air, how far it goes depends on the strength of the arm and the weight of the rock. Some rocks will go higher than others, but it is always important to know that no matter how high you throw that rock up in the air, eventually gravity will take over and eventually will come crashing down to the ground. What goes up must come down. Issues that make you feel good or enrage you, issues that center around culture, faith, and liberation. A temporary high, a temporary adrenaline surge. Issues that don't have any physical tie to this world, those are the throw the rock up in the air issues. Good point. Good point there, Roger. We are moving on to the next story, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't done so, smash the like. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's keep this party moving on. All right. I wanted to definitely make sure that I covered this story because I'm really tired of people getting Assata Shakur's case wrong, including people like Kash Patel. So if you are not aware, Assata Shakur, she died in Cuba a couple of days ago. We'll get into why she was in Cuba in the first place. She was a member of the Black Liberation Party, Black Liberation Army. She was also Tupac Shakur's godmother. How many people knew that? She supported the Black Liberation Movement. And Assata Shakur was falsely convicted of a crime, even though evidence proved that she couldn't have done the crime. They locked her away anyway. They came after her. By they, I mean the FBI, the feds, deep state. They came after her the same way that people came after Fred Hampton, MLK, Malcolm X, anyone at that point in time, Black Panther Party members that were trying to have liberation for the Black community. So when you see a post from Kash Patel that says Joanne Chismard, that's her legal name, didn't fight for justice. She murdered New Jersey State Trooper Werner Forrester in cold blood, then fled to Cuba to escape accountability. The FBI never stopped calling her what she was, a terrorist. Mourning her is spitting on the badge and the blood of every cop who gave their life in service. And here is the most wanted poster that they had for her. And she's been in Cuba for a long time. And they did call her a terrorist. Now, this is the same agency, the FBI, the same ones who also have called other Black freedom fighters and activists terrorists as well. But what really is, I guess, frustrating me about this one is that there was evidence that proved that Assata Shakur was innocent. Kash Patel isn't going to tell you that. He's there to, again, push propaganda. And out of all the stories that I've seen, this is one that till this day, people still repeat this lie. Still repeat this lie. Even though there was a medical examiner that proved there was no way that she could have done this crime, they still push it. I did respond to Kash Patel, and I said ASSATA Shakur was innocent. The FBI killed Fred Hampton, MLK, and Malcolm X. You're full of it. Full of it. You have to remember, people like Kash Patel, they serve the empire. They're there to protect the status quo. What's sad about all this is that ASSATA Shakur never got the chance to come back to the U.S. to clear her name because she was on that wanted list. And so she died in Cuba.
A fugitive from New Jersey who fled to Cuba after a murder conviction has died. ASSATA Shakur, whose legal name is Joanne Chesmard, took refuge in Cuba after breaking out of prison in 1979. She was serving a life sentence for the murder of a New Jersey state trooper 52 years ago. She was on the FBI's most wanted list. NBC News just confirmed she died in Havana from health complications yesterday.
Now, what you have to remember, what was happening during that time. During that time, a lot of people who were members of the Black Panther Party, people who were followers and supporters of Malcolm X, even Dr. King, there were people that were part of the civil rights movement that ended up selling out so that they wouldn't be jailed or possibly killed or have drugs or something planted on them. There's a lot of stories. The same way they went after them, the same way they went after ASSATA Shakur. People have to understand that during that time, the way that we're able to walk out into the street and protest for a free Palestine, you have to understand during that time, when people were protesting, when there was the Black Power movement, when there was the Black Liberation movement, when people were protesting for liberation, it is because of that uprising during that time that I believe the government decided the best way to shut down resistance from the people, because we had resistance in this country too. We mentioned it for Gaza. We have resistance here too. The best way to do it is to kill off their activist leaders and then convince them that the answer to solve their problems is neoliberalism. If you look at even the Ronald Reagan era, I think this is important for people to also understand. You want to know why? Like, there were harsher gun restrictions that were implemented. Ronald Reagan took issue when the Black Panthers showed up at the State House in California. He had a problem that many Black people were armed. So what does he do? He cut down on the gun rights. So you see, people ain't really free. People ain't really free, especially in this country. And it seems as though, to me, when I look back and I read history, every time you get a little bit of freedom, like every time they gave Black people just a taste of freedom, here comes a law to make it more difficult for you to have access to what you were just doing. We're going to do a show one day about neoliberalism. I did one before many years ago. We got to do it again, because I'm going to explain to people how neoliberalism really ruined communities, how it hurt the economy, how it messed up the colleges. So ASSATA Shakur, her name has been smeared and just driven through the mud over the years. And now I want to show you this video. And oh God, this really goes back. This was 12 years ago on Democracy Now!, when they were talking about ASSATA Shakur. As FBI seeks to capture ASSATA Shakur, the NAACP head calls for U.S. truth and reconciliation. Listen to this, 12 years ago.
Very quickly, Ben, has the NAACP taken a position on ASSATA Shakur, who's in Cuba, has been the president, the FBI has just put her on the most wanted terrorist list, the first woman to be placed on it, and increased the bounty for her to $2 million.
This is a case, frankly, all of the political prisoner cases from the 60s are concerned. And closing the unsolved lynchings are something that we're still working on. And it makes you wonder if the country isn't coming to a place where we need some sort of Truth and Reconciliation Commission to help us deal with what are very painful moments. I mean, if you think about the police officers here in the New York, New Jersey area, still their families still feel very aggrieved about what happened with the Brinks case, about what happened on the turnpike in this shooting. When you go down to Georgia, as I was a couple of weeks ago, and you have unsolved lynchings from 60 years ago, and you see kind of pain on, in the Black community, and very suspicion of sheriffs. People feel like have been for years. And so we have not taken a position on the Shakur case, but I do think that we have to, if we're going to heal as a nation, look at the violence, the sort of politically motivated violence on both sides, and figure out how we heal both at once. I used to be the managing editor of a paper called the Jackson Advocate in Jackson, Mississippi. Our paper was burned down 3 times. My publisher used to have lunch with the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan every month. And, he comes in, and I said, it comes in one day, I'm sitting in his office waiting for him. I'm like, why? And he said, at the end of the day, he said 2 things. He said, 1, there ain't nobody in this town who wants to talk to either one of us about the Civil War again. We both like talking about it, right? He said, but 2, it's time that we start listening to each other and figuring out how we heal this, because it's just not ending. The war, it just isn't ending. The Civil War isn't ending. And these are 2 old men, both within a decade of dying, who sat down across great difference, across great pain. I mean, my publisher had covered the Emmett Till case. He had had many friends killed by the Klan, and said, it's just time for us to bury the hatchet and figure out how we move forward. And so my hope is that we as a country can start a conversation about a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, because these old wounds, the wounds around Shakur in the kind of progressive community, and so many other cases, so many Shakurs, right? The wounds, down south with the unsolved lynchings. It's just time for us to find a new way. I don't see it really ending. And I don't.
And we got to pause, because I wanted to show you this to prove a point. I wanted you to see just how weak the NAACP has become. First, one of the earlier things that came out of his mouth, we have not taken a position on the ASSATA SHAKUR case. That right there tell you everything you need to know. Now, this was 12 years ago. Now, he was saying like we need to come together and heal the wounds. ASSATA SHAKUR is dead now. Why didn't the NAACP take a position on that case when there was evidence that proved that she couldn't have committed that crime? You see, this is part of the problem when we talk about what it means to be really free. Some of these organizations that claim to help and uplift the Black community, they became corporate like over time, and they just basically just became bags for the Democratic Party. That's what the NAACP basically is. Because with all the money and name recognition that the NAACP really has, how come they don't do more? Anybody ever ask that question? Why? What do you mean you don't take a position? Some of these organizations got bought off a long time ago. The NAACP is one of them. The Urban League isn't much better. They just want to make money and not actually lead towards any real liberation. That was 12 years ago. So it's times like this, like people need to see this. Let's bring this up here because I want to show you what the doctor said, the medical professional. ASSATA SHAKUR is best known for her work in civil rights and activism. She did activism with the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army between 1971 and 1979 before being imprisoned on what many consider a miscarriage of justice. There's another picture here of ASSATA SHAKUR. Right? Let me show you the accusation. She was accused 6 times for crimes ranging from kidnapping, armed robbery, attempted murder, and murder. On each of these 6 occasions, she was found not guilty through dismissals, mistrials, acquittals, and a hung jury. It later emerged in 1973 that the FBI had 2 separate task forces attempting to tie Shakur to any and every violent activity on the East Coast of the U.S. as a way to discredit the Black Liberation Army. And this is what they do. We can't get you on this thing, so we'll try to get you on something else. I'm pretty sure they had infiltration in the BLA, just like the Black Panthers did too. The FBI, they had agents that infiltrated Black organizations to take them down. And you know what's really messed up about it? They actually got Black people to do it. The gentleman that infiltrated the Chicago chapter of the Black Panthers, the one who was the snitch that got Fred Hampton killed, that guy came forward years later on TV. I forget the program that featured it. It might have been, I don't know if it was PBS or whatever, but it was an interview. He came forward on TV and admitted that he was working for the FBI and he was an infiltrator in the Black Panther Party. And that, yeah, the death of Fred Hampton basically rested on him because he was the one that let them know where he was going to be. And they came and took him out. That guy died after that interview. This is often how they try to get these groups down. So they couldn't get her on anything, right? So let's try to get her on something. And he goes on to say here, she was only found guilty on one occasion, the Turnpike shootout, in which Shakur was convicted on first-degree murder, second-degree murder, atrocious assault and battery against a police officer, assault with a dangerous weapon, assault with intent to kill, illegal possession of a weapon, and armed robbery. In other words, they were trying to throw her away and lock her up, throw away the key. However, the basis of Shakur's defense is that she had already surrendered before the shooting ensued. See, this is the key part. Kash Patel won't tell you this in his whack-ass tweet. This makes the charges against her invalid. The basis of this defense relied on an expert medical evidence which proved that Shakur did not handle a gun, and due to her injuries, she was unable to fire a weapon even if she had been handling it. A key element of Shakur's defense was medical testimony meant to demonstrate that she was shot with her hands up and that she would have been subsequently unable to fire a weapon. A neurologist testified that the median nerve in Shakur's right arm was severed by the second bullet, making her unable to pull the trigger. And yet, they found her guilty anyway. So see, Kash Patel tells the story. He don't tell you the whole story. That's why ASSATA SHAKUR is in Cuba. That's why she fled to Cuba. Because she was not going to, I'm not going to let you throw me in a cell, lock me away for the rest of my life for something I did not do. And as you can see, there were 6 other incidents that they tried to get her for, and she was found not guilty for all those other incidents. It was only a matter of time. They were going to throw her away. That's the injustice with the justice system. There is evidence that proves you couldn't have done it, but they throw you away anyway. So when Kash Patel comes forward and he tells you that she didn't fight for justice, she murdered a New Jersey state trooper, that is a lie. That is Kash Patel pushing propaganda. And unfortunately, so many people hit the like button on that without doing their own research. They just believe whatever is just put in front of them. Oh yeah, that's right. Didn't look it up at all. Now, I want to show you a couple of words from ASSATA SHAKUR when she was still alive in Cuba.
I believe in that oppressed people, wherever they are, have the right to self-determination. I believe that socialism is an integral part of building social justice on this planet. I believe that the priorities of this planet have to be completely changed. And instead of profits, instead of policies that destroy the earth, that destroy the water, that destroy human beings, I believe a policy that protects people, that makes people live in a community, a world community. That's what I believe. That's my basic political commitment at this moment.
Does that sound like someone who was a murderer to you? She wanted liberation. She wanted a freedom. She wanted a better world. Just like some of the other leaders, Malcolm X wanted a better world. MLK wanted a better world. Fred Hampton wanted a better world. They went harder after Assata Shakur than they have after Klan members who have killed, hanged, burned crosses in people's yards, terrorized Black communities for years. But you'll never hear them call the KKK terrorists. I wonder why. So we have to be very careful about the propaganda that is pushed in front of us. And a lot of us are busy. People are working, 9 to 5 or sometimes third shift. Some people are working multiple jobs, and they know that a lot of us don't have time to look up this information on our own. And that's where they get us. My comrade, JB Font, make sure you check out his channel. JB Font read Assata Shakur's autobiography. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you put it on your reading list. It's not all, rainbows. There's some deep stuff in there. And there are even things that Assata Shakur even called out, within the Black liberation movement. That's one thing I like about that book. So put that on your reading list, and let's not allow ourselves to be fooled by propaganda. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. All right. Oh my God, I sound like what's his name from Dazed and Confused. Thank you, Chip. Rest in power, Assata Shakur. Indeed. Mike said, interview Christian Parenti about neoliberalism. Oh, I just saw Christian in New Jersey at the Gray Zone event. I should bring him back on. It's been a minute. Thank you, Joe. Red Sox Yankees update, end 8. Still 2-1 Red Sox. Yeah, let's bring this home. Thank you, Marlon. What does the NAACP even do for anyone? I'll wait. It's a good point. Thank you. Where's the love? Obama administration under the FBI leadership of Eric Coulter chose to pursue Shakur, but didn't want to pursue the case against Zimmerman for the murder of Trayvon Martin just a year prior to this. And what does that tell you? Obama served the empire. Brown Bunny says, period. Thank you, Eric. I would suggest that more people learn about the Ghetto Informant Program from 1967 to 1973. Well said there, Eric. Hey, new update. Eric, my producer Eric says 3-1 now. Whoop, 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 whoop. All right. Okay, ladies and gents, let's keep this show on the road. Think we're making good time. Okay. This is one where you're going to have to get comfortable. Remember that Charlie Kirk letter that we were talking about, that Benjamin Netanyahu said Charlie Kirk wrote him this letter? Well, apparently now this letter has been revealed. Now, I'm going to forewarn you, there's no date on this letter. Just keep that in mind. And I don't know if Charlie Kirk would have dated his letters. I don't know, but there's no date on the letter. Benjamin Netanyahu said he received that letter in May. So there is a portion of time between May and September. What this letter shows you, and we're going to go through it, what this letter shows you is that Charlie Kirk in this letter, if this is the real letter, it shows you that Charlie Kirk was giving Benjamin Netanyahu advice and telling him what was happening with Gen Z on the ground. Now, a lot of Zionists are clapping their hands about it, and they're pointing their fingers at Candace Owens, and they're saying, see, Candace lied, yada, yada. But I think you need to look at this letter in a different way. When we go through it, I think what this letter is really going to show you is it actually kind of points the finger back at Israel, because it shows you that once again, Benjamin Netanyahu was lying about just how involved Israel was in U.S. politics. And I think everybody really needs to see this. And we're talking about pushing propaganda. So let's go there. Let's start with Blakely. Blakely, we love Blakely. Blakely went off about this letter. We'll start with this video and then we'll get to the letter.
See, because the ADL labeling Turning Point USA as a hate group is exactly why it's never going to be good enough. First of all, the ADL is a joke. The ADL is an apartheid defender. They're not a civil rights organization. They're Islamophobic. They're anti-Arab. And then they get on there and they say being a Christian is extremist. They labeled being a Christian as extremist. And now that Turning Point, which was Charlie Kirk's organization, is extremist. So no good deed goes unpunished, bro, because it does not matter how much of a faithful Zionist Charlie Kirk was. And that letter that they just got released that he wrote to Netanyahu, that letter was not critical at all. That letter was ass kissing. I love Israel. I am an operative and I am willing to do anything to help you clean up their image because you're not getting how much you're losing. Like people acting like, oh, that letter from Charlie Kirk, he really was telling Netanyahu. No, he wasn't. That was a letter of somebody who was like, hey, man, you are messing up and I want to help you. I want to personally help you course correct. He was offering to have his American staff help Netanyahu and then left his personal number. I don't know how much of a bestie that it gets to that. But according to the Apartheid Defense League, that was not good enough. So now TPUSA is also an extremist group. The same ADL, by the way, that lobbied TikTok relentlessly to get this special role created for a hate speech monitor run by a Zionist ex-Israeli army officer. See, because the ADL labeling Turning.
Okay. So yeah, for those who didn't know that, the ADL does label Turning Point USA as one of those extremist organizations. Yeah, they do. So let's look at the letter and I will let you be the judge. Let's get into it. Charlie Kirk's letter to Netanyahu revealed, read in full. So again, as I told you guys, there was no date on this letter, but we're going to go through it ourselves. Of course, you know, they put Candace here because people were calling out Candace Owens. They're saying, no, Candace, you didn't tell the truth about the letter. So let's get into the letter and see it for ourselves. Let me make sure we start right here. From the desk of Charlie Kirk. Dear Prime Minister, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews in the fight to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. Most recently, I am proud to have taken over Ambassador Huckabee's show on TBN, where we continually support Israel and the Jewish people. As Mohammedanism spreads in Western societies, it is critical that Jews and Christians stay united in an effort to contain and roll back radical Islam and Sharia law. I regret to report that anti-Israel and anti-Semitic trends are at record levels on social media. These negative sentiments then flow downstream into college campuses and even seep into the conservative MAGA community. So here we go. Again, if this is the letter, this is Charlie Kirk sending a warning to Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, remember, this was May. The podcast where Charlie Kirk appeared on PBD, and then also I think Megyn Kelly, where he was saying, why am I not allowed to criticize Israel? That was after this letter. So people need to look at the timeline. May, September, May, September. A lot can happen in between. Let's continue on. My team and I have spent months analyzing these trends and debating ideas that could help you and your country push back against these disturbing developments. Anti-Israel sentiment can undermine American support for Israel. The purpose of this letter is to lay out our concerns and outline potential remedies. Everything written here is from a place of deep love for Israel and the Jewish people. I think it's important to be brutally honest with those you love. In my opinion, Israel is losing the information war and needs a communications intervention. Now, that part is important because as it stands right now, it has already been announced that some of the individuals that work for the Trump administration are already assigning contracts to flood social media and YouTube with pro-Israel content. To that, I say, whatever, because the reality is this: people can't unsee what they saw. The damage is already done. We already saw what we saw, So putting out all these videos that are pro-Israel doesn't change what people saw. Period. Let's continue on. I started to compose this letter to you on Easter. I should have been focused on my family, but I was getting bombarded with messages about the Israeli army making it difficult for Christians to access church in Jerusalem on Easter. At the time, I did not see any official statements pushing back on this narrative. It was frustrating because pro-Israel surrogates like me should not be in charge of fact-checking every piece of anti-Israel misinformation that pours into social media. It wasn't just Easter. On my recent campus tours, half the questions I get are about Israel, and they're all negative. So I told you that some people on the right were also starting to turn on Israel, having that criticism, calling out the genocide in Gaza. But if this is the real letter, and if Charlie Kirk actually wrote this, according to this letter, it was bigger than I thought. Because he says here, they're all negative. We'll continue on here. I often spend half my time on these campus tours defending Jews in Israel, which I'm proud to do because I love Israel and I love the Jewish faith. I spent endless hours with Dennis Prager over the years studying the Torah. Sometimes it feels like I'm defending Israel in public more than your own government. My experience on college campuses matches a recent Harvard-Harris poll, which reported 48% of 18 to 24-year-old Americans support Hamas over Israel. Even in young MAGA circles, Israel is losing support. We are getting huge crowds of 4,000, 5,000 students on some of my college tours. My campus visits are becoming like a rock concert atmosphere filled with conservative patriots. Yet, on these campus visits, I am constantly confronted with Israel is an apartheid state. Why does Israel conduct ethnic cleansing? Why is America subsidizing Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people? Is American aid helping to subsidize Israel's free health care? Israel and the well, we can't say that here, but you know what I'm saying. Running U.S. foreign policy. Israel responsible for September 11th. Defending Israel is not in our U.S. national interest. Why is Israel trying to drag us into a war in the Middle East? Above are just a sampling of the negative Israel Jewish comments and questions I confront on college campuses. I'm accused of being a paid apologist for Israel when I defend her. However, if I don't defend Israel strong enough, I'm accused of being anti-Semitic. Pause. Highlight this right here. So this right here tells you that even in May, if this is the real letter from him, that even in May, he was already addressing the fact that he was being accused of being anti-Semitic. This is before his appearance on Megyn Kelly's show where he says, "Why can't I criticize Israel?" This is before his appearance on the PBD podcast. So you see a lot of people, a lot of the pro-Israel accounts, they're using this letter as a gotcha and saying, "See, we told you so, we told you so." But they're not talking about some of the things I'm talking about, that he was already talking about being accused of being anti-Semitic. I know you have gotten a seven front war. Yeah, he did. But I'm trying to convey to you that Israel is losing support even in conservative circles. This should be a 5-alarm fire. Everybody see this? So he was warning Benjamin Netanyahu back in May that they were losing support. I'm often asked, why is Israel killing so many innocent civilians in Gaza? I know Israel goes to great lengths by dropping flyers and even calling civilians to clear out the areas about to be bombed. I know Israel posts maps showing which areas should be evacuated. I know that Hamas uses civilians as human shields, but 90% of the younger generation get their news from social media and podcasts, and there is very little pushback or fact checking by the Israeli government or pro-Israel supporters in the media, especially social media. Well, no, there was actually a lot of pushback. In fact, during the Biden administration, we watched corporate media run cover for Israel like clockwork. There are several pro-Israel influencers that offer this pushback. It's not that there wasn't a message that offered pushback. It was that the young people woke up and they know you're full. You guys are lying. They know you're full of it. They know you're lying. That's what it's really about. I strongly suggest, this is important, Israel not always depend on subcontracting their information war efforts to surrogates in America. Mr. Prime Minister, I urge you to revamp your information warfare strategy from top to bottom. Sometimes the impression is given that Israel thinks everyone hates them, so why care about winning over hearts and minds? If there's any truth to this impression, I urge you to consider that social media and podcasts are where you fight for the hearts and minds of a younger generation. Pause. This letter was supposedly sent in May. Remember, Benjamin Netanyahu went on that podcast tour after May. He went on Officer Tatum's show where Officer Tatum just sat there and said, I went to Israel and, Prime Minister, we were only spit on once. That clown went on PBD podcast. He's been making the rounds. Let's continue on. Here we are here. Obviously, all this negative Israel propaganda on social media easily translates into pro-Hamas, free Palestine sentiment on many college campuses. Here are some unsolicited recommendations from my team. So here's recommendations. You need a rapid response media team. President Trump does this very effectively on social media with his own account and with the White House. The president has strong fighters like Stephen Miller and Caroline Leavitt who battle the press every day. Honestly, I don't even know if you have a press secretary. You are an eloquent defender of Israel, but you need a team of information warriors out there pushing back every day. There's also hundreds of millions of dollars raised by private pro-Israel groups. Some of this money should be directed into creating pro-Israel original homegrown content. Next, promote this content on Israel-operated social media channels and websites. Use some of the funds to start the Israel Truth Network. This is all interesting considering Larry Ellison just bought TikTok, another Zionist, billionaire Zionist. Let's continue on. 2, I strongly recommend putting together a team of pro-Israel experts who can fact check misinformation in real time from Israel. Israel needs to take the lead in this effort. No more dependence on subcontractors. Israel never asked for American troops because Israel does its own fighting. I suggest the same approach for the information war. You lead and people like me will follow and provide supplemental support. If you're open to revamping your communication strategy, my team and I are happy to assist. You need something perhaps like the Israel Truth Network, which can include social media channels and one-stop source of information website where, for example, all negative Israel questions I get can be thoroughly debunked. I would love to refer students to such a website. This website would also be a conduit to groups like Hillel and Jewish educators like Dennis Prager. There can be links to books, podcasts, media personalities, and pro-Israel thought leaders. The website can be a place where Judeo-Christian leaders and groups can share information and form closer alliances, yada, yada. You guys get the point. So here's the thing. None of that matters now because people can't unsee what they already saw. That's the thing. You see, all of it's been 2 years, almost 3. None of that changes anything. When I told you Israel lost the information war, in some instances, they've lost corporate media, where there were times where corporate media couldn't even defend them. They lost that a long time ago. So it doesn't matter. All this push that's happening right now, where they signed this contract and they're going to flood social media and flood YouTube, none of that matters. Everybody knows Israel's full of shit. The damage was already done. Like I told you guys before, I don't think that Israel will ever regain the reputation that they had before, which they shouldn't have had before in the first place, because they've been killing people. Goes on to say here, have you considered inviting some of the released hostages to go on a speaking tour in the U.S.? Who would go to this? This could be very effective messaging. These hostages can talk about how Gazan civilians not once offered any empathy or compassion. Who said the hostages were with the civilians? If that were the case, as many times as Israel bombed and killed civilians, Hamas would have been gone. Goes on to talk about the lack of humanity, yada, yada. So he says hostages should go on a tour, interview regular Israelis on the streets, asking them what they love about their country. Too late. Abby Martin did this exact same thing many years ago with her documentary. And that's when I realized just how racist Israel was. So all of this is advice allegedly coming from Charlie Kirk in this letter. Goes on to say here, let Israeli explain in their own words how Israel is a pluralistic society, a free country with elected leaders. Yeah, nobody cares about that. It's just like that's the thing. No one cares. All we know is that you killing babies, you guys are racist, right? He brings up Iran. Israel could do a better job explaining the Iranian threat. Among many conservatives who support Israel, there is a concern that America could become entangled in a quagmire in Iran. My generation grew up with the disasters of Afghanistan and Iraq. We were promised there were no WMDs in Iraq, which proved to be a lie. Our generation was also lied to by the governments of Israel and the U.S. about the pandemic. Israeli intelligence missed the boat on October 7th, but were asked to trust Israeli intelligence 100% that Iran is on the cusp of obtaining nuclear weapons. Young conservatives are very skeptical of government proclamations. We don't fully trust intelligence assessments. Right now, it seems like Israel is primarily relying on Americans to make the case for attacking Iranian nuclear sites. These arguments get a lot of blowback in MAGA circles. So he goes on to talk about Iran. He said there needs to be a shift in how Israel presents itself to the world, especially social media. Perhaps the best way to convey my thoughts here is to think of Israel as a political candidate, in this case, a younger woman who grew up on social media. Who is this candidate and what do they stand for? Right now, there is not a one-stop shopping resource where younger people can learn about this candidate. So again, it's interesting. These recommendations, like I said, none of this really matters. It's too late. None of this really matters. I want to show you this part here at, let me go to the bottom, the very bottom right here. Israel has enormous capabilities, such as how you orchestrated your beeper bomb operation. Perhaps Israel can use some of that same ingenuity to more effectively fight the information war in the media, especially on social media. See, he keeps talking about social media, right? Goes on to say here, let me highlight this. This is the part. Israel is getting crushed on social media, and you are losing younger generations of Americans, even among MAGA conservatives. In my opinion, you are losing the information war, which will eventually translate into less political and military support from America. The Holy Land is so important to my life, and it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Feel free to contact me on my private number below if you'd like to discuss further. And so they redacted the phone number. And I'm assuming they redacted the signature because the first one that I saw had a signature. So now that's if that's the actual letter. We don't really know. That's something I want people to keep in mind. We really don't know. There's no date on that letter. Let's look at the timing of some of these things. But there are many people right now that I saw on social media that are calling out and are really upset with Candace Owens because they're saying what you said about the letter wasn't true. But I'll tell you something else that I think this letter reveals. Pull this up here. Shout out to Chris for this one, Chris Minahan. Charlie Kirk literally described himself as a surrogate for Israel in his letter to Netanyahu. He was getting secret Hasbara coaching on a near daily basis from Israeli agents up until the night before his death and sending the intel he gathered on his tours to Israel's prime minister. This is not the gotcha Zionists think it is. So this is kind of what I took away from this, right? What I kind of took away from this was that this is more revealing of Israel, because what this letter shows you, for him to say he was a surrogate for Israel, that doesn't make Israel look better. I don't understand why pro-Israel accounts and Zionists are looking at this as a win. He mentions not once, but twice, as I noticed, in this letter that he was a surrogate for Israel. That's not a good thing to be mentioned about Israel. That you had an American podcaster who was basically a surrogate for another country that's killing all these kids. So maybe me and Chris Minahan looked at this differently, but I didn't see this as a win for Israel. And there's more. Show you this part here. Also from Chris Minahan. Israeli agent Rabbi Wolicki, who gave Charlie Kirk Hasbara coaching just hours before his death, said Kirk wanted someone from Israel he could talk to confidentially. So listen to this. And I'm going to tell you what I think.
These people got in touch with me about 6-7 months ago. We had already met previously, and we knew who each other were. I mean, obviously, I knew who he was. He knew who I was, and I was friends with a lot of people around him, and that's why he was comfortable. And he reached out to me. One day, I get a text message that Charlie's added me to his WhatsApp, and we started chatting, and we would talk about Israel issues. And if he had questions, and he had criticisms for Israel, he wanted someone that confidentially he could talk to about these things and seek information. Of course, he was certainly having conversations with people who were on the other side of these things, and far be it from me to tell Charlie what to think, but I was in regular, basically daily communication with him about this. And then you mentioned the meeting that we had right before his passing, and this was very jarring in retrospect. So Charlie, when he would go out to these campus tours, we've all seen the clips, the viral clips of him debating students, and that's what people know. But unless you've been to the full events or multiple full events, most people don't realize that a large percentage of the questions that Charlie would get on campuses were about Israel. Wow. And they were about Israel because our campuses have become hotbeds of anti-Israel hostility. And Charlie was known as someone who defended Israel, who was supportive of Israel, although, again, with his criticisms. And Charlie wanted to speak with me. And Josh Hammer was also on the call. There were other people. You know Josh. Yeah. There were a couple of us. It was a small meeting. And Charlie wanted to meet with us to go over the issues that he anticipated he would be asked about Israel and hear what our thoughts were. Again, we weren't telling him what to say, and he wasn't necessarily accepting every argument we made. That's fine.
You're just giving wise counsel.
Charlie wanted to talk to people who are in the know, who understand the issues. And I'm based in Israel, so he knew that, and we knew each other. So that was what the conversation was about.
We were just having a conversation, guys. So let me ask you guys a question, okay? If that letter is indeed from Charlie Kirk, and as it's pointed out in the letter, he was a surrogate for Israel, then what the hell is Ben Shapiro? Hello? Anybody home? If that is true, and Charlie Kirk is a surrogate for Israel, was a surrogate for Israel, what is Ben Shapiro? Everybody think about that for a second. Now, also in that case, he should have had to register with FARA. What is really going on? This is why I said that letter isn't good for either party. That letter isn't good for, if that's the real letter, that letter isn't good for Charlie Kirk because that'll make him look good. And that letter isn't good for Israel either. That'll make y'all look good. So the number of times that Benjamin Netanyahu says, oh, we don't do anything. We don't tell Americans to do anything. We don't say anything to Donald Trump. He's his own person. We haven't told anybody anything. Imagine if there was an American podcaster, and that American podcaster was getting advice and tips from another foreign leader, let's say like China, any other foreign leader. How do you think the US government would feel about that? These are just things to think about. I want you guys to think about, think outside the box. Don't just, a lot of people covering this, like the pro-Israel accounts, they're just talking about the letter and like, ooh, Candace was wrong. She was wrong about the letter. And I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, first of all, is this letter real? Two, let's say it is real. And I'm reading the letter and I'm like, I'm reading the same letter that they're reading and they don't see the problem with this letter. Israel is deeply, deeply entrenched in American politics. And regardless of what Netanyahu says, he's a freaking liar. I talked about it earlier. This so-called peace deal that Donald Trump started, it's not a real peace deal. Benjamin Netanyahu already retracted his agreement. Benjamin Netanyahu already marked up the document after he agreed to it publicly. And then two, the fact that Donald Trump says he was appointing someone like Tony Blair, a crazy ass war criminal from the Iraq War, which many of us remember, appointing him to the board of peace over Gaza. That wasn't no peace deal. That was a joke. And basically what you have is Donald Trump and Netanyahu are playing the American people just like Biden and Netanyahu played the American people. When Biden wanted people to believe that they were pushing for a ceasefire, then it was revealed later on, which some of us knew this, but it was revealed later on that there was never one time that they asked them to stop firing the bombs. It's a game. And what they don't want to do is come forward and say, yeah, we don't really care about the Palestinian people. We want Israel to just take over everything. And that's a little too obvious, right? Then you really look like an asshole. A little too much. So they're not going to say that, but that is the case. This is something Kamala knew. This is something Biden knew. And this is something that Trump knows. And Benjamin Netanyahu knows it as well. They're all in on it. So they can try to flood as much social media as they want to. It doesn't matter. We know what we saw. We know who you are. And we know what you've done. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gents. Okay. Sup. Thank you for the super chat, Roger Meadows. Eyes on the prize. Name of program, Bill O'Neill conscious led him to unalienable himself by running into traffic. Eyes on the prize. Yes, that was the name of the program. Thank you, Roger. I couldn't remember it. Thank you, Marlon. The farming of dual citizens to populate greater Israel is in jeopardy if Israel can't regain control of the propaganda narrative. Where else in the world are they going to get citizens? Ooh. Thank you, Susanna. They took TikTok and CBS News, and now they're going after Twitter. There will be no more free speech. That's a guarantee. See what I was telling you guys about the free speech? Thank you, Marlon. They will attack social media and the first next. Thank you, Shockwave. Remember, Black civil rights leaders were communists with not connection, yet Kirk was an asset of the Israeli nation. Oh, you just spelled it out like that. Thank you, Chip. I'm beginning to suspect there is some Israeli collusion happening in America. Thank you, Baby Ethernet. MSM tries to stunt critical thinking. I call BS. And thank you, Marlon. Israel is running the whole show. It's obvious. Yeah, it's so obvious what's happening here, folks. Let's get the comment on Rockfin and we'll go on to the next story. We're doing a really good time, guys. I'm proud of us. All righty. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Issues dealing with, are you about to get foreclosed on? Are you about to get evicted? Have you been hit with healthcare crisis that your insurance won't cover and you have no savings to pay for? Are you being nickel and dime with extra fees with companies like banks, credit cards, or the government? Are you drowning in personal debt? Be they credit card, auto loan, small business loan, or student loan debt? Do you have upwards of $2,000 plus in your savings account for emergencies? Do you have money to immediately take care of that check engine light before it gets worse? When you get your check direct deposited into your account on payday, how much, if there is any at all money left over from your paycheck to welcome the new paycheck, or is it getting direct deposited into an empty account every time? Is business coming to your small town to take over, causing more harm than help to the community? Are you getting regentrified out of your community, either through eminent domain or private equity economy? These issues are synonymous with gravity. Thus, gravity issues ties us to this world. It is all good to declare, hey, I'm leaving Democrat for Republican Party because of God, church, freedom, whatever. I encourage leaving, but not going from one pimp to the another as an abusive relationship to another, when neither has done anything to help even their most loyal voters with gravity issues. If you want to declare independency, then register independent, run independent, vote independent, but most importantly, do the same thing with CBI amendments. Thank you. And thank you, Stephanie. Yes, Sabby, the National Rifle Association was actually pro-gun control when they saw the Panthers had guns. Yep. And thank you, Roger. Recorded and ordered supporter of Chesmard, Loud and Proud, Kicking Live Next, Poet Supreme, Loop a Troop, Bazooka, The Scheme, the lyrics from my favorite Public Enemy song of all time, Rebel Without a Pause, which had to be the most played hip hop song in my senior year of high school. That got played over and over again. Me being 17, 18 at the time, didn't know who she was. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. All right. We're moving on to the next story here, ladies and gentlemen. Trouble in New York. Trouble in New York. It appears that Eric Adams has dropped out of the New York City mayor race. He also kind of alluded to in his speech that New York does not have time for any type of radical change. I think we all know what that means. But at the same time, he also said that Andrew Cuomo was a snake. So Eric Adams is kind of all over the place. Long story short, he dropped out because he ran out of money. That's usually how these things work. He wasn't going to win anyway. I think we all know this. But now this brings up a question. Where does Eric Adams' support go? Does that 8% go to Andrew Cuomo? Or does it go to Zohran Mamdani? Or do those voters just stay home? Well, Zohran Mamdani was interviewed by Democracy Now! I want to show you something he said recently about Eric Adams dropping out of this race.
You know, it is something that has been rumored for quite some time that this would be the month, this would be the week, this would be the day, and today we've finally seen it. Yet it is also an encapsulation of so much of what has characterized Eric Adams' mayoralty, is decisions at the behest of Donald Trump and his billionaire donors and at the expense of working class New Yorkers. And what we see in this moment is very much what we saw the day we started this campaign on October 23rd. A necessity to finally stand up to the days of big money and small ideas being what characterizes City Hall, and instead delivering for the very working class New Yorkers that are being priced out of that same city.
Well, let's go to what Eric Adams had to say in a 9-minute video message announcing his decision to drop out. New York Mayor Eric Adams did not mention you, Zohran, or Andrew Cuomo by name, but he said this, which has been viewed as criticism of your campaign.
First of all, why did Andrew Cuomo make that long ass video? I saw that. I was like, ain't nobody got time for all this. The video starts with him walking down the stairs, and there's a picture. I think that was his mom, a picture of his mom next to him. Ain't nobody got time for all that, man. This ain't no short film. Just say you dropping out and keep it moving. That was just very weird to me. Let's get into this.
Major change is welcome and necessary, but beware of those who claim the answer to destroy the very system we built together over generations. That is not change, that is chaos. Instead, I urge New Yorkers to choose leaders not by what they promised, but by what they have delivered.
So, Zohran, your response.
Well, I am not surprised to hear any of these critiques or points from Eric Adams, because it is Eric Adams' mayoralty that has delivered us with a city where 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty. And in that same video, he diagnoses what the issues are that New Yorkers face. He speaks about the necessity of lowering costs, of improving quality of life, of keeping New Yorkers safe. And I don't contest the diagnosis. I contest his delivery, however. This is a mayor who raised the rent by 12% on more than 2 million New Yorkers, a mayor who priced New Yorkers further out of childcare, a mayor who has time and time again exacerbated a cost of living crisis, whether by raising the water bill or supporting Con Edison when they wanted to raise gas and electric. And so I wouldn't take advice on addressing that same crisis from the man who's been inflaming it time and time again.
Well,
Damn. So here's the thing. When Bill de Blasio was mayor of New York City, there was a rent freeze, right? And I think some people don't understand that. So let me explain. A rent freeze doesn't mean you're not paying rent. Right? I see people saying this like online. That's not what that means. A rent freeze basically means that the landlord cannot increase your rent, right? So they're freezing it at that rate that it's currently at. So that's important for people to understand. And then, so there was this rent freeze under Bill de Blasio. I think he did it 3 times, if I remember correctly, because that was also during the pandemic. Then people in New York, and I have friends that live in New York, New Yorkers go from that to Eric Adams, and the rent increases by, according to what Zohran said, I think it is about 12% increases. What do you expect New Yorkers to do? Now, and I've said this before too, I think Zohran Mandami in the end of the day is going to end up governing more like a moderate. And I'm going to show you one of those reasons why, one of them being the federal government and what Donald Trump is already threatening towards Zohran. Also, there's some issues with Kathy Hochul. I think you guys know how she is. She doesn't approve of some of his policies. But the reality is, everyone I know that lives in New York is just asking for a break in the rent and the cost of living. And the problem with New York in particular, and I've lived there, if you are born there, you grow up there, it's not an easy place to leave, because if it's already expensive, how are you going to have money to save to move? It's always funny to me when people say, just move, as if you can move with no money. Like, moving costs, you need money to move. You also need a job, like, lined up, right? So a lot of times people end up stuck. We're seeing the same thing happen here in Boston, Massachusetts, where a lot of people are like, yo, the rent is too damn much. A lot of people are paying attention to this. The rent in Boston is now higher than rent in New York. And I've been here since 2011. I've only watched it get higher and higher and higher. So people ain't down with this, man. People can't afford it. So a lot of people that I know that live in New York said that they would vote for Zohran Mandami simply because of the rent freeze alone. Now, he should be able to do that because Bill de Blasio was able to do that. I don't know if he would need to get support from the governor, approval from the governor to do that. But some things he may need approval from the governor, and apparently also the federal government. Now Zohran Mamdani finds himself in another fight, and that's a fight against Donald Trump. Donald Trump, obviously, after Eric Adams exits the race, sees this for what this really is. And now he is threatening to withhold funds to New York City. This is important. If you live in New York, you guys need to know about this. I shared this on Twitter. Trump is threatening to block funding from New York City if Zohran becomes mayor. Trump is doing the bidding of his donors. Until we get corporate money and influence out of electoral politics, nothing will change. And this is the part I think a lot of people don't drive home. Why are these things happening, right? Always ask the why. Big money, corporate interests, military industrial complex, all these things are connected, right? Even the tech industry is a part of some of these things, as we pointed out as well. This is the threat he gave to Zohran. Self-proclaimed New York City communist Zohran Mamdani, who is running for mayor, will prove to be one of the best things that ever happened to the Republican Party. He is going to have problems with Washington like no mayor in the history of our once great city. Remember, he needs the money from me as president in order to fulfill all his fake communist promises. He won't be getting any of it. So what's the point of voting for him? This ideology has failed always for thousands of years. It will fail again, and that's guaranteed. President Donald Trump. So first of all, there is no true communist country in the world. Not even China, despite what some people would tell you. This is why it's important to do your own research. But let's talk about this funding. So I had to look into this because I was curious. Let's see how much money New York City gets from the federal government. Check this out. So this is from Business Insider. They're talking about that threat that's coming from Donald Trump. Peep this, fam. Right about here. So they're saying Trump said that he would cut off the federal funding for New York City. Here we go right here. According to the New York City Comptroller's Office, 8.3% of the city's $115 billion budget for the fiscal year of 2025 came from the federal government. That's a total of $9.6 billion. The bulk of that funding goes towards the City Department of Education, Social Services, and the Administration for Child Services. That's going to be a problem. That's how much money New York City gets from the federal government. And see, when it comes to education, it gets tricky because obviously these schools are funded by property taxes. The problem with New York City in particular is that, of course, most people in New York City don't own. So there isn't as much property taxes there to go towards the schools, at least in the city per se. And this is something I brought this up before, and I will say it again. Listen, my family was military. Throughout my childhood, when we were overseas, I went to schools called Dodd schools, and the Dodd schools were funded by the federal government. At the Dodd schools that I attended overseas, we didn't have to pay for much. I was in the band. I didn't pay for my clarinet. I didn't pay for my uniforms to play on the basketball team. And we had really nice schools. And we would go on field trips and we'd go to different countries. We'd go to, because they have high-speed rail. So we'd go to Spain and all these different places and stuff like that. This was not relying on property taxes. And as I got older, I started thinking to myself, if the federal government can support those Dodd schools overseas, the federal government should be supporting the public schools right here in the United States, but they don't. And this way, everyone could have an equal education. It's really fucked up if you think about it, that if you're not in a wealthy zip code, you're not going to a quality school. Definitely very true here in Massachusetts. #1 public school system in the country, but those are the schools in the wealthy towns. That's what they don't tell you. That's not Boston. So this is a problem. Now, legally, and I'm asking myself, legally, can he do this? Can a federal judge shut this down? But it's really messed up. And at the end of the day, this is all about money. because the billionaire class doesn't want to split their funds with anybody, their resources with nobody. And people are like, oh, there's some good billionaires. No, they're not. Because if you were good, you wouldn't have become a billionaire, because in order to become one, you have to exploit the workers who are working under you. There is no good billionaire. Stop it with that. That's basic economics. We'll get into this a little bit more. As with other attempts by the Trump administration to cut off federal funding, any move by Trump to restrict funding to New York City would lead to legal challenges. So obviously, Donald Trump wants Andrew Cuomo to win. That's what this is really all about. And I don't know about you guys, but I can just tell you this much. Andrew Cuomo is corrupt. He's a snake. And the fact that there are so many liberals, and I'm talking about women that I know that said, believe the women, trust and believe the women, protect the women, protect women's rights, are all in bed to vote for Andrew Cuomo. This guy who sexually harassed over 11 women, that's the partisan brain. That's the partisan mindset. Oh, I'll ignore it if it's my party. Andrew Cuomo, who killed all those people in the nursing home. And it's just interesting to me that so many people overlook this. It's just like, well, I believe he's going to be the best for New York City because he's been governor before. Yeah, and he killed people. Make sure you mention that part. That's the policy game. This is the partisan game. It's just so sad to me that people can just overlook that. Andrew Cuomo is a snake. He's corrupt. Do I think that Zohran is like the next great hope or whatever? Do I think he's a hero? No, I don't think he's a hero. I think he's probably going to end up governing like a moderate. Prepare yourself. I'm just telling you guys now, because I think he's going to face challenges with Governor Hochul. We've already seen him kind of backtrack on some things, like defund the police, wanting to issue an apology to the NYPD because he said they were racist. No, they are racist. Keep that. Own it. So we've seen those things. But the reality is, to fit into that party, he's going to have to bend on some things. The question is, what are those things he's going to bend on? Now, I know a lot of people from the pro-Palestinian movement supported him because he was a part of that and because he has called out Israel. So one of the things he definitely should not waver on is that. But then there's a lot of people who are supporting him because they just want affordable rent. They just want to be able to pay their damn bills and not live paycheck to paycheck. Now, Eric Adams said you shouldn't focus on those who are making promises to you. Eric Adams, I guess, would know that because he made promises. Didn't fulfill them. I would just say this: take everything with a grain of salt. If there was a third party candidate in this race, I would tell you vote for the third party candidate. They're more likely, they would be actually to the left. If there was like a third Green Party candidate in this race, I would say support the Green Party candidate. But this is what you got. You got Andrew Cuomo, you got Zohran Mandami, and you got Sliwa. And here's the thing. Now that Eric Adams has dropped out, there is also pressure on Sliwa, who is polling at 11%. He had more percentage than Eric Adams. There's pressure on him to drop out. Where would that 11% go? If Sliwa drops out and his 11% goes to Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams' 8% goes to Andrew Cuomo, this race is very close. Ultimately, what I think is going to happen, I think some of these people are going to stay home. I think some of them are going to stay home. We have a poll for this as well. I'm just curious. Like, how do you guys feel about it? Like, who do you think, is going to get there? I think we'll show that poll at the end of the stream. But there's a lot of propaganda that's being pushed, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm just here to tell you, keep your eyes open. Don't sleep on this election, because I know we're getting into October and this election is very close. Do not sleep on this. Don't be surprised if they try to pull a trick where David Duke endorses Zoran Mandami. They've done that one a number of times, right? They get a white supremacist to endorse the candidate that supports the progressive policies so that they're less favorable. Hell, they even did it to Jill Stein. So keep your eyes open. Pay attention. Let's get to some of the comments here and we'll get to the last story, ladies and gents. I'm so proud of myself. I'm keeping this timeline so great tonight. Thank you for the super chat, Michael. What if Mandami or Cuomo win in a close election? Yeah, I mean, that's possible. Like we don't really know. We had to wait and see. Eric says, this is the last you'll see of Eric Adams. Thank you, Marlon. Sabby, we said damn at the same time. And thank you for this one, Marlon. If he does, New York should withhold federal income taxes. Ooh. Hey, it's a thought. It's a thought. All right. Okay, ladies and gents, we have one more story for you. If you haven't done so, can you smash the like button? Thank you. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share just like a Care Bear. And we're going to keep the show moving on, moving and grooving. We're going to have to drop the beat during this segment. Maybe we'll drop 2 beats tonight. Max Blumenthal finally was invited on the Piers Morgan show. I can't believe they did it, but they did. He was there, and boy, did he let them have it. He schooled them. The pro-Israel influencer, pro-paid Israel influencer, he schooled. But most importantly, he schooled Alan Dershowitz. That's right. Let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gents. This was epic. If there's one Piers Morgan episode you should watch, it's this one. We're going to start right about here.
Well, former State Department Press Secretary Matthew Miller said, after defending Netanyahu day after day, that Netanyahu shattered every ceasefire agreement, broke every possible deal in order to survive and hold his narrow coalition together, a coalition that features people like Gila Gamliel, the innovation minister, who said the real agenda in Gaza is to make Gaza uninhabitable until the population leaves, and we'll do the same in the West Bank. Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, has said that this is a business deal, that Gaza is a business deal and a real estate bonanza, and we need to divide it. The first stage was demolition and building in Gaza, and basically taking it over for Jewish settlers is cheaper. So that's the real agenda. We're witnessing a kind of final solution that Netanyahu affirmed in May 2025 when he said, we will destroy the homes of the people in Gaza to make them leave. Today, Israel destroyed the largest residential tower in Gaza City, a residential tower, because I've reported in Gaza, that I've actually seen. And the defense minister, Israel Katz, celebrated this. They're celebrating the destruction of entire neighborhoods, which is why, while Israel is waging a seventh front war, which now extends into U.S. allies to kill the negotiating team because it was getting in the way of this final solution, they're actually extending into an eighth front, which is the United States, where Netanyahu has said that his coterie of billionaires, including Larry Ellison, must buy TikTok and buy all these media assets to prevent the PR propaganda collapse that Israel's facing. And we have a panelist here who was in that meeting who appropriately compared Netanyahu and his Likud party to Donald Trump's GOP, essentially because the Likud party controls Donald Trump through vehicles like Israeli asset Miriam Adelson.
Okay, Katie, I'm going to come to you because I wasn't going to.
Where's the lie? Now, this woman up here, this is Katie. She's a paid pro-Israel influencer. She was the woman that was in that room. The story I covered recently, the influencers meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, asking how to get the evangelical Christians back on board for Netanyahu. Now, watch this, guys. She's going to try to go with, when all else fails, let's just try to say, oh, you're paid by Qatar. You were paid by Iran. And it's funny because she's paid by Israel. Like that's the part that's hilarious to me. But she's going to try to go with that because she can't debunk what Max is saying. There's no lie there. We've all seen the footage. We've seen what's been happening. We see what's been going on. That's why I told you Israel lost control of the narrative. That's why they're trying to get it. Let's flood the social media. Let's do all of this. They are on defense at this point in time. Israel with the narrative. They're on defense. So let's listen to her.
Come to you before I went back to Alan. So I will come to you, but just on that point about that meeting, Deborah Lee, you were in the Netanyahu influencer meeting. Do you recognize the characterization that Max just put up for that?
I think everything that Max is saying is just honestly hysterical because it is so two-sided. Max, you are directly funded by Iran, Russia, and Qatar. The organization that you work for is directly
that's a huge
receiving
lie.
funds
That's a lie.
from the
That's a
Iranian
huge
Play
lie.
TV.
That is a huge lie. You
proven
can't
from
just
your
go on
own
here and lie.
documents. It
You're
is
funded by
proven
Israel.
that is you have received
That is
money.
false.
I've
That's
never received
totally
a dollar from Israel or
You're
the
setting
Israeli
yourself up
government,
for a
whereas
libel suit.
your company,
That's totally
Gray
false.
Zone, is directly, this is not
That is
liable.
totally
It has been
false.
proven
She's
in
accusing
documents
me of
from your own
violating
company.
sanctions,
But
Pierce.
at
She's
the
accusing me
intro,
of violating U.S. sanctions.
yes, you claim that your organization, Gray Zone, simply runs off leaders donating money, but that is not true, and that is absolutely not true because it's been proven. And Piers, I just wanted to address what you said on the intro of this, that Bibi was saying that he needs to buy TikTok and that make it an Israeli weapon. I was in that meeting. I posted the video. The video that you played was my video. If you watch the video for yourself, he never said that. I was asking Bibi about what do we do in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination and the rise of the woke right with people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson creating chaos online, even with things like Tyler Robinson saying that he wasn't the assassin when he's confessed to it, trying to get a mistrial for him and not get justice for Charlie Kirk. So I was asking Bibi, because I wrote a paper when I was in college, as Max mentioned, about the similarities between the GOP party and the identities and the values of the Republican Party under Trump, and how the Likud party in Israel under Benjamin Netanyahu has similar ideologies and values, and they're cut from the same ideological cloth. I didn't say that the Likud party controls the GOP. I literally wrote that they just have similar ideological values, which I hold as a conservative Jew. So as far as buying TikTok, we saw in that video, every single person here and nearly every single commentator agrees. I've never received dollars from the cheap shop. Keep trying.
Yeah. Also, and buying her. 1 second. With had to freeze that there. Yeah, and buying her, right? So here's the funny part about all this. It's just hilarious that she would say that someone is funded by another country because she's funded by another country. And that is a smear that came from Israel. Israel smeared the Gray Zone by saying, oh, they're funded by Qatar. They're funded by, by the way, Qatar is an ally of the United States. There's that. That don't work. Then they say, oh, they're funded by Iran. They're funded by Russia. None of those countries are Israel. None of those countries are committing a genocide. So even if that were true, this is what people need to pay attention to. That's not even a good comparison. Not even a good one. But Max comes back in because he's not willing to let this go. He is going to tell her about herself.
2020. I'm not lying. You're a liar. Anyway, I wasn't done talking. Every single person here, every single political commentator, and the Trump administration will acknowledge that TikTok is a grave threat to the United States if it was controlled by China. All of us have acknowledged how China can influence the United States through TikTok, through videos, through making us dumber, through putting out propaganda, whatever it is. Same with X. Why do you think Elon Musk bought X? Because we recognize the free speech issues on there under Mark Zuckerberg.
Why is it that every single time, though, an American
gave
emails
that weapons of war change in modern times?
Deborah, let's hear. Time out. Let's hear from Katie.
I just don't understand.
So this woman here, she got her talking points. These people are paid propagandists. If you are paid by another country to do said agenda, you really don't have the nerve. You really have the audacity to call out someone else for being paid, right? Which he's not. But you have the audacity to make that claim towards someone else. Honey, you paid. You paid. You sat right there in a room with a freaking war criminal who's killed all these children because you were willing to do anything for money, honey. That's the sad part. All the influencers that are willing to sell their soul, to sell out the youth, to sell out children, to turn a blind eye to genocide just to get a paycheck. And that includes Officer Tatum and his dumb ass as well. You can add him to that list too. Who stands there? What black man stands there and says, Prime Minister, I took a trip to Israel and my church group, and they was really nice to us, and we were only spit on once. I was seriously watching that video thinking to myself, are you going to ask if you can shine his shoes next? They should all be ashamed, but they're not. They want money. That's it. Money and fame and all this stuff that comes with it. That's what it all comes back to. You even got black influencers that are willing to sell out for a check. That's the saddest part. The white influencers, you know, I get on all of them, but the white influencers who are doing it, I'm just kind of like, yeah. You don't give a damn about the Palestinian people. Come on. You're going to try to attach yourself to what's the closest to whiteness, if you can. But for the black ones, those are the ones that really irk my nerve because you know better. You know a lot better. Now that's her crazy self. Like to sit in there in a room with a war criminal and ask him, what can we do to make sure the evangelicals stay on board to support Israel? From all of this, from a book, hold on, we coming to Dershowitz. Hold on, Dersh, we coming. All this from a book that you don't know is real or not. Everyone needs to put their biases aside for just a second. I don't care if you're religious or not. I grew up in the church, but I still say this. Religion is a belief. And they really got people out here saying we gotta let them kill these Palestinian kids. So, you know, that's the Holy Land for them. And when the rapture comes and all this stuff, all of this based on a belief. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if that's the real Bible. All you know is what you were told. How many times have we been lied to? How many times? And then for those of us who have read the Bible, even the Israel, the modern day Israel of today is not the Israel that is mentioned in the Bible. And I will continue to say that until more Christians wake up. Wake up. How many times have we been told something was one thing and it turned out to be not that case? When I was a kid, they said Pluto was a planet. Later on, they say Pluto, no planet. Now they're trying to say it's a planet again. You see where I'm coming from here? I'm not here to tell you. You believe what you want to believe. If you want to practice a certain religion, you practice a certain religion. All I'm asking you to do is to think outside the box and do your own research. And acknowledge that religion is a belief. It is not law, not in this country. All of this from a book. And I'm gonna look into this one day. I'm gonna see where all this came from. I'm gonna see where all of this came from. Where it all come from. Islam is the biggest religion in the world. And you have Christian organizations that go around the world to spread the gospel, to spread Christianity. But what are they also asking you to do? They're asking you to support the greater Israel. But I didn't tell you this part till you get deep into it. And then this is another part as well. The Israelis see the Christians as a means to an end. They don't like you either. Okay? It's really sad. It's so much control. The masses have been controlled. All I'm asking you to do is do your own research. That's it. Now let's get to Dersh.
Say that Netanyahu is going to be able to drag the U.S. back into another war with Iran, just as he did before, knowing that he couldn't go in and finish a war that he started without the Trump administration going along and basically letting him escape. And most Americans don't want this. Charlie Kirk personally lobbied against this inside the White House.
Israel started the war with Iran?
American soldiers to fight and die for a crazy little apartheid state. But you have this dynamic where Miriam Adelson has contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump, paying for his campaign. This is an Israeli asset. And now, and this goes to the Tony Blair question that Pierce asked, Larry Ellison has contributed something like $300 million to the Tony Blair Institute. And they're going to use that to collect the data of people in Gaza who will be put in, as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said in its internal documents, biometric concentration camps after they're ethnically cleansed from the north. And all of these tech companies, I don't know, Katie, if Elon will be involved in this, but they will come in and reap massive contracts from this Holocaust, and Tony Blair will be shepherding in those contracts as he did in the occupied West Bank as a so-called peace negotiator. This is Tony Blair's real role. And what is Larry Ellison doing in the United States? He's buying Paramount to do a propaganda film, to do propaganda films for Israel. His son is buying CBS, and they'll put Barry Weiss as editor-in-chief. This is the takeover that Netanyahu outlined in the meeting with Deborah Leah and these other influencers that they're seeking to buy and control because they've lost the propaganda war. So it is an 8-front war, and Donald Trump is under, as Tucker Carlson's sources said, Netanyahu's thumb. This is the worst foreign meddling that we have ever witnessed. I agree with Alan that Russiagate was a hoax. This is the real foreign meddling scandal. It's Israelgate.
All right, Alan, your response to that?
Before he responds, I think we got to drop the beat. We got to drop the beat. Russiagate was such a distraction. You really should have been paying attention to Israel. Dance with me. Dance with me. Drop the beat. In the street. I'm telling you, there's so many distractions. You look back now at Russiagate and you have to laugh. You have to just laugh.
And to the Tony Blair report.
Well, I like the idea of Tony Blair. He's not perfect, but he has a lot of credibility. He did a great job in Northern Ireland. And I think he may be the least worst solution, but I cannot avoid.
Tony Blair was a war criminal. For those of us who remember the Iraq War, for those of you not aware, Tony Blair was a war criminal. He ignored human rights abuses in Iraq. But Alan Dershowitz thinks that, I think he's a good person. He didn't do everything right, but he's okay. And da-da-da. Of course, the guy who represented Jeffrey Epstein, who sexually trafficked all them damn women, of course he'd have no problem with a war criminal like Tony Blair. Look at all the company that Alan Dershowitz wants to keep. Sex traffickers, war criminals. Of course he would have no problem with Tony Blair. He has more of an issue of people calling out a genocide than he does with war criminals and Jeffrey Epstein abusing women on that island. And that's a fact.
Commenting about Max. I mean, basically, what he has said about, Jews controlling this sounds like it could have been
say Jews.
Part of the protocols of the elders.
I didn't
Zion.
say Jews.
He talks about Ellison. Ellison is not Israeli. He's a Jew.
No, I said Zion.
So we see the lie, right? Here come the lies. The Zionist lies. Did you hear Max Blumenthal say that? That was not what he said. But this is what they do. Oh, me, the victim. Oh, my God. He's making criticisms here. That was not the words that came out of Max Blumenthal's mouth. Also, Max Blumenthal is Jewish. This is what, exposed. And if I get flustered, it's because I'm so sick of the lies. I'm so sick of the dishonesty. I'm so sick of the, woe is me. Ain't no woe is you. You not oppressed. You ain't occupied. You're not living in an open air prison. From what I understand, Alan Dershowitz, you seem to be doing just well. I told you guys before to pay attention about the white minority. Because somehow, and especially over the years, I got to tell you, as someone who is a Black American, my people didn't get any reparations. My people didn't get 40 acres and a mule. My people don't have their own state that is for them. My people still have to deal with injustice in the criminal justice system, which Alan Dershowitz is a part of and gets these people off. But woe is me for Alan Dershowitz.
He talks about
Israel
Miriam
like
Adelson,
yourselves.
who's an American. Yeah, I'm not an Israel
Firster.
firster. I'm an American firster. I'm an
You've
American
dedicated your
firster
career to defending
who strongly
Israel.
believes
When you're not
in
defending
democracy.
Jeffrey Epstein, you're
I've
defending
dedicated
Israel.
my career. I dedicated my career to defending Bill Clinton,
And to defending wife
Ted
killers,
Kennedy,
but also to defending Jeffrey Epstein and Israel.
Defending
the ultimate wife killer.
You want to talk about who I defend?
So in other words, he defends corrupt people. Bill Clinton is corrupt. Bill Clinton was also on that Epstein Island. Ted Kennedy killed a woman and got away with it. Corrupt. This isn't even a denial. It's not like Ted Kennedy did not. We didn't talked about this before on the show. I done told you. He represents corrupt people. That's what he does. And then he gets mad when you call him out for representing corruption. You chose to represent those people. Ain't nobody make you do that. And he did it for the money. Those are high profile cases. So Alan Dershowitz likes to represent corrupt people.
Then talk about John Adams, who defended the killers of people and at the beginning of the American Revolution. Let's get to the merits of this thing. The idea is that America
you
is
advised Jeffrey
an independent
Epstein.
country. Donald Trump is an independent. That I what? What did you say?
You were according to new
Jeffrey
emails
Epstein?
that have been. According to new emails that were reported by Bloomberg on the 26th of this month, you advised Jeffrey Epstein and wrote You advised.
I was
Jeffrey
his lawyer.
Jeffrey Epstein is a good person who does
I was
many
his
good things.
lawyer.
I
was his lawyer after he was indicted. I was.
So did you write
I was his
that Jeffrey
lawyer
Epstein is a good person who does many good things? Because you say you don't remember doing that. That just came out in an email. And
I was his lawyer. I was his lawyer. It reminds me of Better Call Saul. You guys ever watch Better Call Saul? Like for the theme, it says, I'm a lawyer. Remember that?
Accused his victims, calling the girls self-described prostitutes. So when you weren't defending Jeffrey Epstein, you're defending an apartheid state.
As a criminal, I am not defending the apartheid state. Israel is the most integrated, least apartheid state of any country in the Middle East.
Right,
in
and
Jordan,
that's why
you
it's
can't buy
annexing the West
property
Bank.
if you're Jewish. In Saudi
where it has
Arabia,
a minority of the
let me finish,
population.
please. Let me finish.
So because there are Ethiopians that live in Israel, he says there's no apartheid, but there is apartheid where Palestinians people have different passports. And depending on what your passport says, tells you where you can go. We even CNN did a whole special showing people what it's like to travel through the West Bank and how even the journalists who were there were stopped by armed gunmen. But he tells you there's no apartheid. Many have documented, of course, Max Blumenthal has been there. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote about this in his book, The Message. Many have documented that the apartheid system in Israel is worse than apartheid was in South Africa. But they continue to tell you there's no apartheid because they got a couple of Ethiopian people sprinkled around in there. But then they don't tell you that Israel sterilized Ethiopian women against their will because they didn't want them to have more babies. Hello. They don't want to tell you that part. Hell, the United States is a melting pot. But even under Jim Crow, it was lawfully segregated. We had our own form of apartheid here in the United States. My parents went through it. So just because you have people there of a different race doesn't mean they're not treated differently. That's the part. He's big mad in this one. Look at his face.
Finish, please. Look.
Piers, if Max is going to interrupt this whole time, I'm going to jump in too.
Max.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's helpful if we don't all talk over each other.
There's no country in the world that is less apartheid than Israel. It has black ministers. It has Arab justices of the Supreme Court. Every middle.
Stop. See, here comes the black card. Let me tell you something. They have Ethiopian ministers. The same Ethiopians that I showed you multiple videos About 2-3 years ago, I showed you these videos that the Israelis were yelling at, saying, get out of here. Those same Ethiopians. They don't want them there either. They're there, but how are they treated? And then what he also doesn't tell you is that those Ethiopians also end up joining the IDF. And they're just happy that they're not treated as badly as the Palestinians, but they're still treated badly. When Chris Smalls was on the show, he told you, and me, of course, that when he was detained, when he walked into that prison, everyone that was in that prison, other than himself, were Ethiopian or Filipinos. So just because you sprinkled in African people in Israel, that doesn't mean they're treated the same. And a lot of them will hate on the Palestinians just because they don't want to be treated as badly as them. How's that for you? That's supremacy in its finest. When people who are a minority or of a darker complexion, they will go along with the supremacist just so that they're not at the same level as the other group. It's hilarious. I really couldn't believe he said that. I couldn't believe he said it. It reminds me of the people that are like, oh, no. They're not racist. Look, there's a black family that lives on that street. They're not racist. They have a black friend. They're not racist. They voted for Obama twice. Are we in Get Out, Dershowitz? I don't think anyone that watches this show is in the sunken place. I'm actually surprised he didn't say that one. The next one. Oh, they voted for Obama twice. I would have voted for him twice.
East country prohibits Jews from living there, buying property. In Israel, Arabs are absolutely equal. Israel is not guilty of apartheid, is not guilty of genocide. Max is essentially a Holocaust denier because when he talks about things like the final solution,
you're a Holocaust supporter,
and genocide, what he's saying is that these things didn't happen in Nazi Germany. The idea of Jewish children being walked into the gas chambers,
they did happen in Nazi Germany, and they're happening again
that's a Holocaust,
through a new ethno-supremacist
but that
state.
isn't happening in Israel.
New ethno-supremacist state you support is carrying out a Holocaust in broad daylight.
Let me finish, please. Stop interrupting me. Stop interrupting.
You called me a Holocaust denier.
Self-defense, you are. When you call self-defense Holocaust,
you're a Holocaust supporter.
When you confuse trying to kill terrorists with genocide, you are a Holocaust minimizer and a Holocaust denier. So let's be very clear about that. What Israel
Max Blumenthal, till this day, has never denied the Holocaust ever. I've never heard him deny that. So now we're moving the goalposts, right? Because now they're moving the goalposts of what it really means to deny the Holocaust. So now if you're accusing Israel of genocide, now you're also a denier of the Holocaust. You see how they just say things to make it mean what they want it to mean at that point in time? This is why nobody takes you. This is why, and part of the reason why the sympathy and the pity just isn't. A lot of people have woken up. A lot of people have woken up. And I said this before. I told you guys, for all the people, particularly in this country, that had an issue with DEI, had an issue with discussion about race and ethnicity and all this kind of stuff, why is it that some of those same people have no problem pushing, promoting, and advocating for safe spaces for said group in this country? Why is that? Isn't that DEI just for a different group? Because the whole Israel project is just colonialism. It is the final phase of colonialism. And once they continue, if they succeed at that greater Israel project, Netanyahu said so himself, then we will go on to liberate Africa. So Africa, they looking at you too. They're going to be coming your way too, just like all the supremacists before them. That's what this is really about. So now all of a sudden, we just moving the goalposts and we changing definitions. because we're not happy with the conversation. I don't think that Alan Dershowitz was ready to go against Max Blumenthal. I really don't think he was. I think there's a reason why it has taken Piers Morgan this long to bring Max Blumenthal on the show. I think there was also a reason why RFK Jr. backed out of having that conversation with Max Blumenthal. Because unlike Max, you can't look at him and say, oh my gosh, you've never been? Remember that guy on Joe Rogan? You've never been? You can't say that to him. He's written books about it before October 7th. I don't think he was ready for this.
How does that make sense?
No, I got to say, Alan, I think that
how does that make any sense?
I don't think that is anything that Max has said. So I think it's a wrong thing to say.
What he said
Can I
is
respond
he's
in 5
minimized
seconds?
the Holocaust by
Benjamin
comparing
Netanyahu
it
is a
to what's
Holocaust
going on in
minimizer.
Gaza.
Benjamin Netanyahu,
What's
your
going
friend,
on in
blamed the Holocaust on Palestinians. Benjamin Netanyahu literally blamed the Holocaust of Jews in Europe on Palestinians.
Let's not all talk over each other.
You have to talk about
Don't all talk over each other.
You have to talk about who I support.
Okay, let's not talk over each other.
The idea that you
Let me bring in the other
argue
panelists, please. There are 5 people on the panel.
Yeah, Dershowitz, not a good look for you. It appears that you didn't do too well under pressure. We got to drop a different beat.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. Give them a name to remember. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. A moment can live on forever.
A moment can live on forever. Give them a name to remember. Didn't do too well under pressure. I still remember that time when Katie Halper told him, she said, you were friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Kudos to Max. Good job. You guys, I'm telling you, watch the whole thing. But to me, it was just laughable. Laughable. I don't think he was ready for this. I don't think he was. You know, he wasn't ready when he tried to say that Max was denying the Holocaust. You know, he wasn't ready. Just throwing things out there. Oh, man. That was therapeutic. Like watching that, it was therapeutic the first time I saw it. But people like Alan Dershowitz and paid pro-Israel chick up there to the left, the right corner of the screen, they're pushing propaganda. That's it. Just pushing propaganda. And Alan Dershowitz, if you seem to have a problem with people bringing up these people that you represented or your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, then maybe you shouldn't have represented those people. This is what it is, man. But this I am the victim because you were calling out these things. I didn't see anything or hear anything there that Max said that was false. We have just seen repeated lies from Israel and Israel supporters for years. And for the first time, at least in my life, there is quite a bit of resentment towards Israel, including on the right. And I don't think they don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle this. Because the worst thing that happens is losing, like Max said, that information war. That's the worst when that happens. Then you're on defense, you know. The world will never look at Israel the same. And the longer people like Alan Dershowitz continue to support Israel, the worse it just gets. I mean, at this point, I don't understand how anyone can support Israel at this point. Even some of the Zionists that I saw on social media that were defending Israel after October 7th, even they're not defending Israel anymore. What does that tell you? So to Alan Dershowitz, you need to address the racists in this state of Israel that you love so much. That racist genocidal state. And for Black people, don't take your ass to Israel. I don't care what you're offered. I don't care if it's a free trip. Don't you take yourself there. They're just using you for a prop. And that goes out to the Congressional Black Caucus as well. You're just used as a prop. They don't care about your black ass. You need to understand that. But that was so therapeutic. So therapeutic. Alan Dershowitz showed his whole ass. He showed his whole ass. Look at the look on his face. He looks constipated. I'm sorry. I had to end with the we had to end with a laugh. We had to end with a laugh. But yeah. That was therapeutic. All right. I think we have a poll, right? Let's show the poll, Eric. Oh my gosh. I gotta stop. All right. Thank you so much, guys, who filled out the poll. Eric Adams suspended his campaign. How will this impact Zohran Mamdani? 50% said that Zohran wins in a landslide. 4% said Cuomo will win. 23% says Zohran wins, but it will be close. And 23% said, I'm not sure. That's interesting. Interesting. Well, we shall see, ladies and gents. We shall see. Let's get to the comments here, and then we were going to head on out, guys. Yeah. Let's see where we are at here. Thank you, Marlon. If he does, New York should. Oh, I said that one. Sorry. Thank you, Warrior. That chick is like a rabid chihuahua. Thank you, Measured Man. What did she say and what's love got to do with it? You got one time to hit me. Tatum said, spit on once. You got one time to spit on me. Pray for him because I cannot. It is their love of money. And thank you for this one, Measured Man. I left the church, not God. It is not the same. Do people realize how many versions of the Bible there is? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Thank you, Marlon. The Ethiopian Bible is 833 years older than the King James Version. The Khazars adopted Judaism in 800 AD. Interesting. Thank you, Bicho. Fidel Castro was the only white person. Malcolm X. Okay. If the U.S. hates you, you're a good person from Cuba with love. Thank you, Kinman. Dershowitz looks like an angry potato. Damn. Thank you for the super sticker, Angela Runnels. Thank you. Thank you, Russ. Sabby loved the podcast. Christianity is still the biggest religion in the world with 2.3 billion followers, and Islam is at 2 billion followers. Oh, it's interesting. I thought I have to check the numbers again, but thank you for letting me know. I thought the biggest one was Islam. I have to double check. And thank you for this one, Russ. Islam is the fastest growing religion currently. And thank you, What Democracy. Dersh interrupts peeps all the time. Karma. I do need to do a shout out for someone here, ladies and gents. I'll pull it up in just a second. I'll pull it up while I play this. First and foremost, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Big news. We reached our fundraising goal for the documentary, and I already have a premiere date for the on the ground premiere. We're going to do it on the ground first for the community, and then we're going to premiere it on YouTube as well. So our goal was 10,000. We actually got over our goal. So thank you to everybody who donated. I really do appreciate you. And for those who have not seen it, I'll play the trailer really quick, and then I'll send the shout out mutual aid for a viewer sent me. Here's the trailer for my documentary that's coming out. It's called Removed: Black Erasure in Boston. Yes, Boston is home to winning sports teams and elite universities. But some might say that there are two Bostons.
If you look at City Hall, no one's talking about that specific racial and historical component that Black people are the ones that are being removed.
There's a huge significant difference in lived experiences, and we know this because of the wealth report. We're at $8.
This whole plan of gentrification isn't a new concept. In every city you go into in the Northeast, they kept moving Black people out of the inner city. So it's a plan. It's been in place for a long time.
While the displacement isn't as bad as 1963, it hasn't gotten much better now.
It's by design that they've created spaces where we are no longer seen anymore. They're wiping us out one community at a time, and they're getting away with it. This is gentrification. Franklin Park has been a place where we have built community, and all these things are at risk.
Why is the mayor willing to throw herself on this sword, do or die, for this project? It's not about soccer. It's about the additional profits that can be made in this entertainment complex. It's a disrespect that you would take public parkland and then give it to a private group to control it. And this project is Emmett Till's mama pulling back a curtain. And if people don't look at what's behind that curtain, it's coming to them.
All right. Yes. And I'm so excited about that, ladies and gents. So I'll give you more information about the on the ground premiere for those of you who live in the area. And also, of course, the YouTube premiere. I'm thinking like for YouTube, I'm going to do it as part of a live stream, and then we can do the call in after the show. What do you guys think? Yeah, we can do the call in after, and I can get your takes on it. And I'm definitely open to feedback. This is my first like full length documentary. It's 90 minutes, a little under actually 90 minutes. And I haven't done a documentary project since I was an undergrad. So it's been a long time. But I have an amazing editor. And of course, Eric and Corey helped out so much with interviews as well. They did a lot of on the ground help for me with this. So it's been a lot of work. But I had a lot of help. Some great people help. Okay. We do have, let me put this up here, a mutual aid request from a friend of the show. Let me go ahead and share this with you guys. I know Daniel is asking for some help. So I'll share the link, the GoFundMe. Support Daniel's journey to stability. So Daniel needs some help here getting back on his feet. My name is Daniel Chalua. I'm reaching out with a heavy heart. Life has become overwhelming for me financially, and I'm struggling to stay afloat. Over $3,000 in debt to previous landlord, high monthly rent, utilities and bills, food insecurity. I often run short on groceries each month, transportation costs just to get back and forth to work. My paycheck is simply not keeping up with the rising cost of living, and I feel like I am drowning. So if you guys can help out Daniel, let me share his link in the chat. This is what I was telling people. Like, a lot of people are just, you know, it's expensive. Put this here. That's Daniel's GoFundMe, if you can help him. It's expensive, and a lot of people are struggling right now. So if you can help Daniel out, please do so there. You can donate to his GoFundMe. That is it for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to head out. Not Roger. Eric is going to do the chats, the rest of the chats on Rockfin. I have a quick early start. I have to get a tree taken down. So I will be getting
That's a lot of work. You're going to be out there with the axe?
Oh, no, but it's just tree. So a lot of things going on, but thank you so much, Eric. If you can close out the show for me, appreciate it.
Sure. Do a quick closeout here. All right. Good night, Sabby.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm just gonna catch the we got a few here on the rock fins, and But yeah, definitely great job by Max. Oh yeah, Sabby's tree. I think the city's coming in to take the tree down from outside our house, but they're coming in early, so she's got an early call. Let's see what we got here on the Rockfins. Thanks for this one, Stephanie Caro, who says, congrats, Sabby, on surpassing your funding goal for Removed, the documentary. It'll be great when your doc comes out. Just another request, maybe interview someone from the Banana Kelly Community Improvement Association in the South Bronx. They've been a mutual aid project since the 70s, supporting homesteading and truly affordable housing and opposing gentrification. All right, thanks for that. And a lot of times the best bet too is to send an email to Sabby's email address that's in the description of all the videos. So then, like, if she gets it as an email, then at least she has a record of it, and maybe even some contact information and stuff like that. All right, thanks for the tip comment on Rockfin. Roger Meadows, who says, if he was smart, he'd use Bully Pulpit to lobby Hochul to pass the New York Public Banking Act, allowing NYC to charter their own public bank. It'll take time to build up a surplus, but he'd be setting it up for the next mayor. And thanks also for this one, Roger. He says, since Bloomberg registered NYC voters ranged from 4.5 million to 5.5 million in a city with a population of 8.5 million, yet only 1 million vote in every mayoral election. Yeah, man, people don't get out there to to vote because they see how dirty and ridiculous the whole system is, and they give up on it. And thanks for this comment on the Rockfins, Stephanie, who says, Sabby, according to Jeremy Kuzmarov of Covert Action magazine, Ted Kennedy did not kill Kopechne. It was a CIA operation to get him out of the race. Kennedy had to keep quiet about it, or else Kuzmarov talked about it on Garland Nixon. All right. Thanks for those on the Rockfins. Let me swap this around. There we go. And actually, we had one more here come in on the super chats. Gamble, thanks for the super chat. Gamble says, Dershowitz with the perplexed blob fish face. Yeah, Max did a good job on that. You could see why they're afraid to have him on. It's Max is really able to just generate facts, and it's like a boxer doing jabs. He's throwing the facts in there at Dershowitz, and Dershowitz was kind of like stunned, at each one. So yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the opposite side of a debate with Max. All right, that is going to do us for tonight. Oh yeah, as you can tell, I'm a bit of a Red Sox fan, and we had a big win. Sorry, Yankee fans, but we may have to dispense with you tomorrow night. We'll see, but maybe they'll get us, and you can have the last laugh at us. But we'll see. But go Sox from this end, from here in the Boston metro area. And we'll next live stream is on Thursday at 8 p.m. You can see Sabby live again in the show, and hopefully we will see you all then. Until then, as Sabrina says, keep up, have that good night, keep up that fight. We'll see you next time. Bye.